How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I want to talk about how to know if you're ready. So how to know if you're ready for something. So how do you know if you're ready to start the business? How do you know if you're ready to make that first sale? How do you know if you have the expertise to serve your client? How do you know if you're ready to make your first hire and bring on that first employee? Or how do you know that you're ready to scale your business? For me personally, how did I know that I was ready to get married? And how did I know that I was ready to aim for these high numbers? And I want to talk about how that's actually a logical fallacy. And not just a logical fallacy, but also maybe a spiritual fallacy. And it doesn't fully recognize the nature of human nature and how humans work and cooperate and become things. So this is kind of more of a conceptual video, and it's here to sort of break you through that feeling of needing to wait for permission, or that feeling of needing to wait for somebody to come along and tell you that you're capable of something. I found a lot of people actually, it's interesting, we have a business where we help people start and grow online coaching and consulting businesses to $100,000 to $1 million a year. And our top client actually does like $10 million a year, but he's an extreme example. So we can really do 100 to $1 million a year pretty consistently. And I've found that a lot of people actually buy from us, and this might actually hurt my sales if I say this, because they just need somebody to give them permission to do it. And we're fine with that. Like we'll bring them in and we'll say, yeah, this is actually good. And I'll reference one of our top students who he did 50 grand in a month, I think like 10 months in. He helps people basically with their e-commerce businesses, with their marketing, or something like this. And it feels like every single group call that he was on, it was just, hey, is this about right? Does this sound good? Is this cool? And he knows who he is if he's watching this. And he actually self-admitted, he was like, I almost just feel the need for somebody to tell me what to do. So I'm gonna tell you today how to get through that feeling of waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. And like I said, this is gonna maybe hurt my sales because some people just want the direct support, okay? So here's the truth, and here's how human beings really work. When you try a new thing, really, and this might sound strange, you're not actually trying anything new. You've just categorized it as new, and because you've categorized it as new, you've left behind all the lessons you've learned in all these other areas of your life. So most people already intuitively know how to get the things that they want. It's just that mentally they've said that this is new. And when they say that it's new, they then take the lessons and the ideas and strategies and methods and whatever that they have developed, and they throw them aside. And you might be saying, okay, fair enough, but I don't have those strategies, methods, ideas, or whatever. And let me let you in on a little bit of the secret here that I've observed, having watched, this industry that I serve in move and sway to the tune of, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, moving in different directions into different businesses and everything. The people who create something new that others end up copying, they always are able to take things that worked, strategies, methods, ideas, principles, whatever, that worked in the past, and ideate them in a new direction and make them work in a new way. And that's just being inventive, that's being creative. But people tend to think that there's a right way or a wrong way to do things. And so they don't understand that they already know how to do it. So what am I talking about? Well, let's say, for example, you're like maybe one of our audience members who maybe saw an ad or, I don't know, and you'd like to sell consulting or coaching, but you just don't even know that you feel like you're the authority yet. This is a very common example for us. And this, what I'm about to say, will also apply for those of you who are making your first hire. I remember 3 years ago, I said, why would anybody want to work for me? I'm too young. And now here we are, coming up on being an 8-figure company, just 2 or 3 short years later. And so let me tell you this, how it works is you don't wait until you feel ready. You do the thing, and then you learn to separate your feelings and your identity from the thing. So you see the thing as a separate thing. So a failure becomes data and a success becomes data, and they all have lessons, and by being curious about those lessons, you can create whatever you want to create. It's only when you say, this thing happened, therefore I am, that you then identify with what happens to you and you create a negative loop or a positive loop, but it's an uninformed positive loop. Because if you think that it's baked into you to succeed, then you think you can't fail, and then you're going to fail. So you need to see the thing that you're working on as separate from you. This is the first mental step in becoming ready. Is actually seeing the thing that you're doing as not of you. It's a separate thing. It'd be almost like, imagine two race car drivers. You know, the Indy 5, I actually live in Indiana, and the Indy 500 just happened. And imagine like two race car drivers, one that's just got a faster engine. It's just that simple. Like they've got a better engine, better tires, better aerodynamics on the car, but they're an okay driver. And then you've got another driver who's world-class talented. Maybe he won the Indy 500 this year. I don't know what his name is. I don't pay attention to that stuff. But let's say he won, but he's got like a Honda Civic, okay? The guy who won the race, he's driving a Civic versus the decent guy who's driving the Formula One car. Guess who's gonna win by default? The Formula One guy. But what would be silly is if the guy who was driving the Formula One car was like, oh, I'm a better driver, because you're not. Or if the guy driving the Civic, the guy who usually would win but is now driving the Civic, would say, I'm a terrible driver, but you're not. It is your opinion of the thing that then relates to you. So the first logical fallacy you have to let go of is that your results are somehow a reflection of you. You know, Tony Robbins has a really cool quote on this. He says, there's no such thing as failures or successes, just outcomes. So if you have something happen to you in your life, failure, success, see it as just an outcome of a series of behaviors and decisions, not as a reflection of yourself. And in this way, you create the necessary emotional distance to view the thing rationally and distill the lessons in which it has for you, so you can move forward stronger. That's just getting better, okay? The second thing I want to help you understand is, so the first idea, in order to feel ready, is to separate yourself from it, okay? Very important. You're not a failure, you're not a success. This thing is separate from you. It's just a byproduct of your decisions and behaviors over time. The second thing, in order to feel ready, and this is actually really crucial, is to get around other people who are doing it. So if you get around other people who are doing that thing, you'll start to observe that they're actually no smarter than you most times. There's not much that they actually know that's better than you. They've just been more willing to try than you have. And this is a hard truth for a lot of people. But you have to swallow this pill that most people who are where you want to be simply decided to try, and you haven't. And you might think you're trying, but the level at which you're trying and the level at which they're trying is like night and day. So you try a little bit and it doesn't work, so you stop. They're trying all the time, and they've come to terms with failure being an inevitable reality. So I want you to think like a scientist in that, you know, maybe you're running experiments. You think about like Thomas Edison. He was a scientist. He was an inventor, but he was a scientist. He tried that 10,000 versions of the light bulb and one worked, right? And then he's got that famous quote, like, I didn't try 10,000 times and fail. I found 9,999 examples that didn't work, right? But there's a secret hidden message in that people don't talk about. And if you actually dig into the story of Edison inventing the light bulb and everything, he actually learned so many valuable lessons from every single one of those failures that led to all kinds of other inventions. So what's interesting is that if you can stay curious, all of your failures become inventions as well, because they have lessons within them. But anyway, to get back on point, getting around people who are doing it, what you'll find is that people who are doing it are disconnecting from themselves from the project and seeing the project as a project, okay? And then B, they are trying at a higher level. When I was in Taekwondo, when I was 12 or 13 years old, my parents put me in Taekwondo, which is like the most like vanilla like martial art. But anyway, you know, the leaders of the class would always say like the black belt has tried and failed. So they failed, like broken a leg or something, more times than the white belt has even gotten up to try. That's why they're the black belt. So they failed more times than the white belt has even tried. And one of the devious lies of the internet space, the space that I serve in, is everybody looks so perfect and crisp and clean and like amazing on the front end. And even myself, you know, I can look like this, like well accomplished, well put together, but you simply don't see the failures. You simply don't. And you know, I'm learning and consulting with people doing $2 or $3 million a month right now. And the thing that I'm learning from them is like, they're so much broken in their businesses that the level at which your business breaks when you start to give up, they've just gone deeper. They're willing to break things further. And and they're willing to experience more pain and more challenge than you are, and that's why they're there. So that's one of the sad realities of entrepreneurship right now, is it's just become like modernized, and it's like really cool. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and then like nobody's really willing to talk about their failures and the things that haven't worked for them. Because a lot of the time, if you talk about your failures, it's unattractive, and if it's unattractive, you lose sales, and it's just sad, because I just don't think that's a good way to run a life. I don't want to have to perform all the time. I want to run a real business where I don't have to perform all the time, personally. It's just me. So that's the second one, is get around people who are trying. Okay, so first, separate yourself from the thing. Okay, it's not you, it's just a thing. Okay, second, get around people who are trying. Okay, and then third and last thing, if you want to know that you're ready for whatever that next step is, and this is just going to be a hard truth that you probably don't want to hear, but you just have to take the leap. So you'll never be ready. There's never going to come a moment where you're going to feel ready for anything. I mean, even at my wedding, I was like, am I really ready for this? And I think every man that's gotten married has had that thought in their back of their head. Like, I know very few, even people with ridiculously happy marriages. And even myself, like starting my business and everything. Like, I was like, am I really ready to do this? Like, am I really ready to take all this risk? I hate that word. But am I ready to take all this risk and do all this stuff? And it turns out, yes, I am. But I didn't know at the time that I was. So if you wait until you feel ready, you're basically waiting until you reach the end of the earth and fall off of it. You're just gonna keep going in circles, man. It's not gonna happen. You have to start. And if you feel ready right now, great, use that momentum and go do it. But most people never feel ready, and you never will, and you have to do it anyway. And so, tangible, solid example of this is 4 years ago, my first team that I had in my business, god awful. None of them actually really cared that much, right? We all kind of had these like weekly huddles that like didn't really matter and weren't really actually necessary for the business. We didn't really know what we were doing next. We didn't know what projects to work, and we didn't know what mattered, and we couldn't work together as a team in synchronicity. And now today, I've basically got a business where I don't have to really do anything except maybe film some ads every now and again and like hop on like a daily call with a certain team member or something, and the whole thing just runs. And my team is so dialed in. And they love working here, and they love the mission and vision and values. And so that 4 years is an accumulation of me trying about 7 or 8 times. So the first attempt at a team, god awful. Second attempt, a little better. Third attempt, a little better. And every time it's just gotten a little better because I've stayed curious about my failures and my successes as well. And I've gotten around people, right, who are doing it, so I've learned from them by osmosis. And then I've separated my failures from my own, identity, and my successes from my own identity, which is actually really hard to do when you first come into a success. You start to think that you know it all, and I guarantee you're gonna lose it all if you start to think there. Trust me, I've been there, I've done that, okay? So another good example is like sales. Gosh, sales is a great example. So if you're scared of that first sales call, it's like we help people start these businesses, and one of the realities of starting coaching or consulting is you have to get good at sales. There's just no way around that. But once you get good at sales, like we're basically writing our students $1 million checks by helping them master sales. But a lot of the time they get stuck, right? They're almost subconsciously afraid of booking calls. Even though we've got great ways of booking tons of meetings. I've got students that book like 5 meetings a day, like clockwork, 30 days into the program, which is awesome. But they get stuck because it's like, they're just afraid of the ask. They're afraid of like coming off as like salesy. They're afraid of whatever. I don't know what, but we have all these conceptions of what sales is. So my first sales calls were so sweaty and awkward and gross and weird. Like I wish I had the recordings of them, but I didn't even know how to use Zoom at the time. Didn't know how to record it. But I literally remember one time dropping the price of my offer, and then the prospect like ripped into me and called me like an unethical liar scammer. Because I was charging I think it was like $5,000 for something. And I was just like, I might as well charge $5,000 and just see what they said. And then they said the worst possible thing you could have said to an already secure 17-year-old kid, which is like, you're basically, if other people pay, they said verbatim, if other people pay you this, they're getting scammed. I hope nobody ever pays this price for this. And I was like, whoa. So I had to really deal with that as a 17-year-old kid. 23 now, and I've gotten sharpened up by those no's, and you start to learn that a no doesn't even actually matter at all, because there's probably a yes right around the corner, and you can learn from the no. But sales is a big one that people are afraid of, they never feel ready for. And until you feel ready, if you wait until you feel ready, again, you're gonna be chasing the edge of the earth, and guess what? It's just horizon on horizon on horizon. You're just gonna keep looping. You have to take that leap. Okay, so this is just some advice on how to get beyond the need of feeling ready, because I know the title of this video is probably like how to know when you're ready to start, or how to know when you're ready. And the reality is you never know. So you have to get past that, actually, like emotionally and intellectually. And if you want my last tip on knowing if you feel ready, and because a lot of these have kind of been getting around that feeling of feeling ready, but some people, man, they just really need to have that assurance. My last piece of advice is, whether it's us or somebody else, no matter what it is, that thing is sales, marketing, or if it's like team leadership, or if it's like personal management, finance management, whatever it is, find somebody to help you. And really, I mean it, whether it's us or somebody else. I don't care if it's us, whoever else, whoever you're looking at. Like, if you're watching somebody's content or you're following them online and they've got something to offer, just buy it, dude. I gotta tell you, like, some of the best money I've ever spent is just in like getting in proximity to the ideas and ways of thinking and strategies that others have implemented. So I've spent like $450,000 of my own money on masterminds, mentorships, courses, whatever, because every single time I get just one little thing that can serve me for a lifetime. And so I know it sounds biased because we have something for sale like that, but I really mean it. If it's somebody else's thing, go buy their thing too. Or don't buy ours, just buy the one that makes the most sense for you for the gap that you're currently experiencing. But what I want to make sure that you do is don't buy something just in case. You want to buy something just in time. Like, I'm currently running into this problem, right? What's the current problem I'm running into? Which, by the way, it starts from the top. If you're not booking calls, that's your first problem. If you're not making sales, but you are booking calls, sales is your next problem. If you're making sales, but your clients hate you, delivery is your next problem. And if you're working yourself to the bone, you're not able to scale, then team and leadership and company stuff is your problem. Right, so it kind of goes down the system like that if you do what we teach. So you want to specialize and find the person that can solve each of those individual problems, or even if you're not even in our industry and it's like a marriage thing. Where are you stuck? Is it an intimacy thing? Is it a romance thing? Or is it a communication thing? Is it just a work-life balance thing? What is it? Find somebody who can help you with that. Buy the book, buy the program, get in the right rooms. Because I gotta tell you, man, most of the time, what holds people back is they think that the solution is complex. And because it's complex, they spend a lot of energy looking for solutions in their own head. But you can't create solutions in your head. You can only act solutions through. So only by acting can you find solutions and clarity. By thinking, you actually stay in the cycle. So give yourself permission to stop thinking and go do it for a minute and just see what happens. And a lot of the time, a lot of those thoughts start to quiet, because now you've got, momentum going and you've got the results coming of your actions. And your actions will teach you a lot more than any thoughts, especially actions that are made with the intent of learning. They don't need to succeed or fail. You're not worried to fail, you don't need to succeed, you're just moving and you're ready to go. And you can get so much from that. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and it made sense to you. If it did, please leave a comment below and recommend any other videos you'd like for me to discuss, or any topics you'd like me to kind of crack into. This is just something that I hear all the time. Like, I don't feel like I'm ready. I don't know when I'm just not ready right now. Like, what are you waiting for? What are you actually waiting for when you really pick apart, I'm not ready? What does that really mean? And a lot of the time, there's nothing actually there. You're usually just afraid or overthinking. So hopefully this video was helpful. Please subscribe and leave a positive comment down below, and I'll see you all in the next video.